Hello, and welcome to the Night Sky Reader. I'm here with a story to help you relax, meditate, or gently drift to sleep. Tonight, Luthier's Varnish brush strokes. Settle in, close your eyes if you'd like, and let's begin. The brush touches the maple, and the wood lights from within. I hold my breath without meaning to. The first stroke slides down the violin's back, a wet lane of varnish opening across the flame figure like shallow water catching sunset. The curl wakes beneath the amber liquid, each ripple of grain turning from pale dust to honeyed gold. I can see the fire that was always sleeping there, patient under the surface, revealed now through this exact small permission. My hand wants to move faster. The transformation is so immediate, so visibly rewarding, that my wrist insists on chasing the glow, laying down the next stroke before the first has settled, but the brush resists. It is soft, bound from fine hair, and it carries its own tempo. When I lean too eagerly into the handle, the bristles splay and the varnish pools. I soften my grip. The wood will only hold the light if I stop trying to force it there. I dip again into the shallow glass dish. The varnish there is the color of late afternoon, of old whiskey, of the moment before a candle steadies. It clings to the bristles with a faint resistance, a viscosity that wants to be respected. I lift the brush and let the excess drip back, counting the seconds in heartbeats. 3, 4. The surface tension breaks. Now. The second stroke follows the first, parallel, separated by a hair's breadth. I watch the edges meet and marry, the liquid seeking its own level, the two strokes becoming one continuous sheet. The flame maple deepens further, the grain turning three-dimensional, as though I am looking down through clear resin into a forest floor rather than across a wooden plane. The violin seems to exhale. Perhaps that is only the solvent evaporating, but the air sharpens, charged with the smell of oil and pine and something sweet that has no precise name. I work across the back in long passes, north to south, following the grain. Each stroke is a conversation. The brush whispers against the wood, a sound like pages turning in a distant room. I turn the violin slightly on the padded cradle, adjusting the angle so the ribs come into reach. Here the geometry changes. The back was a broad landscape I could read at a glance. The ribs are another country entirely, curved and narrow, demanding a different relationship. I have to change my stance and settle my weight lower into the floorboards. The old boards creak once, then hold. The lamp throws its light sideways across the curves now, and the varnish becomes a series of long, bending reflections traveling with me as I move. I track each one, using the reflection as a guide to evenness the way I might track the horizon on open water. Where the band of light stays steady, the coat is right. Where it buckles or thins, I slow and let the brush drink that spot gently. The waist of the instrument is the narrowest point, and I turn my wrist inward to maintain the pass. My shoulder adjusts. My elbow finds a new angle. The body accommodates the work without announcement, the way it always does during long sessions. Small recalibrations so familiar they barely register. The varnish goes smooth in the tight curves and I feel something in my chest release a half-held tension I did not know I was carrying. Near the lower bout, a small thickening appears. The varnish has gathered in a faint ridge where the back meets the rib. A hesitation in the flow. My thumb twitches. I want to scrub at it, to perfect the glint immediately, to erase any evidence of my hand before it sets. The urge is physical, a tightness in my chest that says fix it now. I pause. I lift the brush and set it down on the linen cloth beside the dish. The cloth is worn soft at its center, pale from years of wiping excess varnish, glowing honey gold under the lamp. I breathe. I pick up the brush again and make one lighter pass, barely touching, letting the bristles kiss the ridge rather than scrape it. The leveling happens on its own. The wood drinks the excess. The surface calms. I step back. The back and ribs are covered now, swimming in amber light, but I can feel the coat setting already, the tackiness rising as the solvents begin their slow escape into the air. If I touch it again, even to admire, I will leave my fingerprint in the finish. The work demands that I stop while I still want to continue. I set the brush across the rim of the dish, handle resting on the bench, bristles suspended above the remaining varnish. I lift the violin by its neck, careful of the sticky ribs, and carry it to the drying line strung across the workshop's far corner. The hook clicks against the brass eye screwed into the scroll. The violin hangs there, back facing me, glowing like a lantern. I return to the bench. I wipe my hands on the linen, though they are not truly dirty, only scented now, carrying the resin deep into the lines of my palms. I cover the dish with a square of glass to keep dust out. Then I step back, and I wait. Waiting has always been the hardest part. My mind immediately begins to inventory. One coat down. How many more? Perhaps 3, perhaps 4. The finish will need to cure for days, weeks, before it can be rubbed out, before the instrument can be strung, before it can sing. I catch myself calculating the hours, converting this pause into lost time, empty time, the white space between accomplishments. I look at the hanging violin and see only what is not yet done. But the room is still here. I force my eyes to move. Dust motes drift through the task lamp's cone of light, each one enormous in the silence. They rise and fall on currents I cannot feel, on the simple respiration of the old building. The shelves along the wall hold blocks of wood waiting their turn, flamed maple from Bosnia, spruce from the Italian Alps, each labeled in my own handwriting with dates that feel distant now. The smell of the varnish lingers, not fading but settling, becoming part of the walls, the floor, the air I am breathing. I uncurl my fingers. They have been holding the shape of the brush handle. I stretch them, feeling the joints pop softly, one by one. I sit on the stool. The wood creaks beneath me, accepting my weight. The violin hangs in its amber shell, and I watch the sheen begin to dull slightly as the surface skins over, passing from wet gloss to a softer satin tackiness. It is becoming itself. I do not need to be the one making it happen. When I return for the second coat, the room has shifted. The light coming through the high window is different, cooler, though the lamp remains constant. The violin's back is dry to the touch, faintly sticky, holding the impression of my sleeve if I lean too close. I turn the instrument on the cradle to work the top plate. This is spruce, not maple, cut on the quarter so the grain runs straight and true as a river. It behaves differently under the brush. Where the flame maple drank the varnish and flared into dramatic light, the spruce receives it gently, the amber sinking into the pale wood and warming it from within like embers settling under ash. I load the brush again. I lay the first stroke down the center joint, following the book-matched grain. The sound is different here than on the maple, softer, less percussive, something closer to a whisper than a murmur. The spruce seems to sigh as the liquid spreads. I work outward toward the edges, and I notice my breathing has found the rhythm of the strokes. Inhale as the brush touches the dish, exhale as it draws across the wood. The length of each stroke matches the length of each breath, neither rushed nor held, the two moving together like oars matching a current. The reflections travel more evenly this time. My hand has stopped reaching ahead of itself. I watch the window's rectangular light bend across the arching top plate, traveling in slow curves as I turn the violin to reach the upper bouts. The reflection is liquid, unbroken, proof that my touch has eased. I am not pushing the varnish anymore. I am opening a path and letting it find its own level. Near the feff holes, I slow my stroke and keep the brush tip light, letting the varnish thin toward the delicate incised curves rather than pooling in them. When I am done with the top, I hang the violin and pull the stool close to the drying line, not to the far side of the room. Here, nearby, within arm's reach without reaching, the workshop breathes around me. The floorboards settle with the cooling air. Somewhere in the wall a pipe ticks as it contracts. These are ordinary sounds, sounds I have heard in this room for years without hearing, and now they arrive separately, distinct, each one finding its own space in the quiet. The resin scent has deepened, layering over itself, becoming a presence rather than a perfume. It is in every breath now, neither pleasant nor unpleasant, simply present, the way certain light is simply present in certain rooms at certain hours. I watch a dust mote descend from the ceiling, turning through the lamplight, drifting past the violin's suspended shape, and I do not count it as interruption. It is part of the air the finish is breathing, the fine texture of the room settling into the work alongside everything else. My fingers are loose in my lap. The brush has left no mark on my palm tonight. I look at the callus at the base of my thumb, the small scars from old chisels and scrapers, the geography of my own hands as familiar and unremarkable as the grain of the bench. The violin hangs, and the instrument suspended in its amber shell, the light continuing to do what light does, the room holding everything in its long quiet. For the final application of this session, I wait longer than necessary. I let the previous coat set until it is leathery, until touching it leaves only the faintest tack, until the room has grown so still that my own pulse seems loud enough to disturb the air. Then I bring the violin back to the cradle. This coat goes on differently from all the others. The varnish has thickened slightly in the dish, and it spreads in a single luminous sheet with less coaxing than before, as though the wood has grown accustomed to the gesture and no longer needs convincing. The flame maple and the warm spruce now speak the same language, unified under this accumulating amber. I work the scroll, following the tight spiral with the brush tip, then down the peg box, then into the delicate channel where the neck heel meets the body. Each surface yields to the brush with a quality I can only describe as readiness, as though the wood has been waiting for exactly this weight, this speed, this particular afternoon. Then, near the tailpiece end, I see it. A line. A brush mark, faint but visible in the reflected light, a slight ridging where the varnish dried too quickly at the edge and formed a low wave. My hand stills above the wood. The mark is small. It would take only 3 quick strokes to blend it away, to chase the perfection while the varnish is still wet enough to forgive me. The brush is in my hand, loaded, ready. I can feel the old panic rising, the familiar urgency that says act now, now, before the moment closes. I look at the line. I look at the brush. The workshop is utterly silent, as though the room itself is holding its breath alongside me. Given time, given the slow gravity of this still air, the ridge will relax into the surrounding surface, or it won't, and that will be the record of this particular afternoon, the proof that human hands guided the material through a specific hour that will not come again. I make one pass. One. Whether the bristles have eased anything or only recorded the attempt, I cannot tell from this angle, and I find I am not sure it matters. I set the brush down. I step back. I do not touch the violin again. The coat settles as I watch. The amber sheen quiets, finding its level, the surface becoming still as a pond after the last ripple has reached the shore. The room does the work now. The solvents rise. The oils begin their slow oxidation. The wood and the finish enter their long marriage in a silence that needs no witness. But I stay. I stay and watch the light travel across the curves, bending and steadying, until the gloss dulls to that particular satin quality that means the coat has committed to its shape. I lift the violin carefully, supporting the ribs with the back of my wrist, and carry it to the drying line. The hook finds the scroll's eye without searching. The instrument hangs there, back and front and sides all glowing with the accumulated work, a shape made of stored light in the gathering dusk. The window above shows only the darkening sky and a faint doubling of the lamp, but the violin seems to hold its own illumination, the flame maple shifting as the room's light shifts, alive in whatever way finished wood is alive. I clean the brush at the bench, working linseed oil through the bristles in slow strokes, watching the amber thin and clear. I wipe them dry on the linen cloth, folding it slowly around the bristles, pressing gently, giving my hands something quiet to do while the rest of me settles. Then I sit. The stool accepts me without comment. The violin hangs across the room, not finished in any final sense, not completed, but resting in its current brightness, entering the long cure that will take days I have no desire to count. I do not reach for a light to inspect the surface. I do not fetch a cloth to test the tackiness. I sit with my hands open in my lap, the resin still faint on my skin, and I feel my breath moving in and out at the pace of this room, this hour, this air cooling around us both. The orange light has faded toward gray, but the violin remains luminous where it hangs. It will stay there through the night, through the invisible work of drying hours I cannot hasten, and I find I have stopped measuring that time as waiting. It is simply the next coat, the one applied by stillness and patience and the slow chemistry of oil meeting wood meeting air. The work continues in the dark while I sit nearby, breathing more slowly than when I came, no longer needing to hurry the last shine into being. Thank you for spending this time with the Night Sky Reader. May your night be peaceful. Until next time, rest well.